The first iteration of the U.S. Army gets ready to defend New York in June 1776. The city is under attack from the biggest British naval task force ever organized. 32,000 combatants are transported by 170 troop transport boats, 20 frigates, and 10 powerful ships of the line. They are getting ready to invade and put an end to the American Revolution before it can begin. The overwhelming might and sophistication of the British Navy and the British military is difficult to comprehend today. None of that was present in the colonists, the group that would eventually become the Americans. Nevertheless, they decided to fight the world's most powerful force. Funding for the first regular volunteer American Army to serve as the backbone of resistance was approved by the Continental Congress a year earlier. At the beginning of the war, the average private made about $6.60 per month, which was actually quite significant compensation for the period. They ought to be outfitted. They ought to be given uniforms and weapons. They ought to receive food, a ration of alcohol, and everything else. Everything you would need to supply on your own if you were a militia member. The new Continental Army is given George Washington as its commander-in-chief. He personally plans the defenses in Manhattan's Kips Bay. Since then, George Washington has served as the model for all American officers to follow. Because he is prepared, he is the only person to arrive at the First Continental Congress in his uniform. Washington gained notoriety for his service in British-French battles. His soldiers are a motley crew of former service members from Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. He is regarded by them as one of them. People need to be led, not directed. They must follow a leader who is brave, inspiring, and captivating. The Second Continental Congress convenes as the British task force gets ready to attack New York. The Declaration of Independence is ratified by the delegates on July 4th. There's no going back. The challenge was whether the American independence movement and the Continental Army could stand up for what they had argued for in the political sphere. The British attack on New York starts on August 27th. Thousands of cannonballs weighing 24 pounds bombard the defenders. Redcoat elite forces dock in Kips Bay on September 15th. There are roughly 2 times as many Continental soldiers as there are badly trained soldiers. The British are too strong for them. The men of Washington flee. There are just 3,000 males left. There are not enough supplies. There are many diseases. Morale is at an all-time low. From the start of the Revolutionary War, Washington had a certain insight. He was not required to prevail in the Revolutionary War. All he had to do was not lose. The American Revolution is the army itself. George truly excels as a military thinker when it comes to preserving this army and preventing its destruction on the battlefield. He understands that we are unable to compete with the British Army. We need to take a different approach. A new kind of aggressive commander ready to tear up the rulebook is promoted by Washington. Men like, as Daniel Morgan, "Go slay some redcoat for us." What the colonists truly waged was a guerrilla war, and Morgan is the one who planned that conflict. Many of the skilled marksmen Morgan hires are hunters from his native Virginia. Although it's now British soldiers, it looks a lot like hunting, which they are accustomed to. We'll go about doing things that the British Army won't do, including ambushes, snipers, shooting from trees, and shooting behind rocks. Morgan is in charge of 500 sharpshooters. Muskets made up the majority of weapons during the Revolutionary War. It's possible that the muskets are accurate to about 40 yards. The rifle, the long weapon that certain Americans utilized, was not a new idea. It had been pioneered in Germany a few centuries previously. However, the concept is this. Upon firing the gun, the projectile becomes trapped in the spiral grooves that run the length of the barrel, causing it to spin as it exits the barrel. The gunsmith would begin working inside the smooth barrel in this groove. It has that iconic spiral if you've ever witnessed a decent quarterback toss a football. The ball that emerges from a rifle will act more like a football when those spiral grooves are installed in the barrel. Because it is spinning, it will travel a great distance on a straight and true path. The Redcoats officers and the British Native American Scouts are the 2 groups that the sharpshooters target. The intention is to cause confusion and mayhem. The Battle of Saratoga in October 1777. The marksman Simon Fraser, a British general, is pursued by Tim Murphy. The outcome of this fight will determine Britain's future. The outcome will be influenced by this showdown. The British forces, discouraged, are forced to flee in confusion. They are furious that Fraser was killed. They consider the assaults on law enforcement to be barbaric. However, the colonists actually view this as more than just a traditional conflict. For them, this is a battle for their freedom and very existence. The French are encouraged to enter the war on the colonial side after the win at Saratoga. The Continental Army, however, is unable to capitalize. They are forced to retreat to Valley Forge after losing their discipline at Germantown. The colonists' prospects are bleak. Washington, however, still thinks he can rally for one final fight, and he will turn things around if he can prevail in the upcoming conflict. To reassemble his fractured force, Washington needs assistance. Prussian Lieutenant General Baron Frederick von Steuben, an unexpected source, gives it to him. Von Steuben was a unique individual. Washington has excellent reason to question if he is a general at all. He arrives at George Washington. His services are available. Do not yet give me a salary. Watch to see what I can accomplish. Then give me the money I deserve. What von Steuben discovered at Valley Forge astounded him. The people in Washington's army dislike being told what to do by others. Telling them that you're fighting for freedom is really difficult, but I'll whip you if you don't follow my instructions. Von Steuben must first get the troops to agree. Your doctor might have been British, French, or Prussian, depending on where you were from and what colony you were in. We can no longer do that, he says. Develops a drilling technique that is American. In his Blue Book, America's first military manual, von Steuben details everything, paying special attention to the vicious tactics of hand-to-hand warfare. In the past, when men used muskets that were not very accurate, the bayonet was a crucial weapon. He so practices using the bayonet every day, learning how to both charge and be shocked by a bayonet charge. Valley Forge was abandoned by the core of a more disciplined army. People who didn't pass away or give up improved their skills. They grew closer together. They gained self-assurance. In addition to upending the country, the American Revolution upended the American soldier. October, Yorktown, 1881. The Redcoat Bastion is about to be overrun by George Washington, the Continental Army, and their French allies. We were outnumbered and outfought over 3 weeks of acrimonious combat. The British give up. They will establish a siege when we consider the intricate strategies they employed. A nighttime bayonet charge was one of the battle's climaxes. At the start of the war, this was not in the Continental soldiers' kit bag, but it is now. Yorktown is the pivotal moment in the conflict because of this. America separates from Great Britain. George Washington becomes the first president of the United States after winning the election. The U.S. military's commander-in-chief is still the president. He most likely defined more aspects of American society than any other founding father. The indispensable man was discussed. That, in my opinion, is the most accurate description of any American that has ever been written. The development of the American soldier and the American Revolution are closely related. That is the tale of the American soldier who fought for a cause greater than himself or herself.